everyone, I'm Dr. Julienne Seignard and I'm here today to talk to you about an exercise that focuses on design and prototyping. In this exercise, what I'm going to be sort of outlining to you is about an activity that looks at designing a paper airplane, which seems simple enough, but actually it's a really great exercise to get your students to think around creativity, problem solving, collaboration, the importance of being flexible or being able to pivot, and giving really clear instructions. So let me explain what the learning objectives are. So within the example, we're looking at getting students to understand conditions of uncertainty and change. We're also giving them opportunities to create designs through empathy and clear communication, and then also illustrate teamwork through working together in prototyping ideas. The 21st century skills being taught in this exercise include teamwork, problem solving, prototyping, negotiation within the team, confidence building, communication, networking, and creativity. So I would recommend that you use this exercise potentially in activities around team building or just before they're actually creating a team, and also when you want them to really think deeply around a design idea and understanding customers or the people who will be using that particular design. So what you'll need is 2 sheets of A4 paper, one for making an airplane and one potentially to write out instructions, pens, and an online timer. So just go on the internet and find a timer because there is a timing component within this exercise. And as I said, we will be asking teams to build a paper airplane in a team setting. And the first thing we do is we get our students into teams or groups of 2 or 3 and get them to pick up 1 sheet of paper and write their names on it on the top. Now, then we say to them, put that to the side and then ask each group to make a set of instructions on how to make a paper airplanes. And we indicate that they will have 10 minutes and just leave it like that as instructions. And if they ask you any questions, you say, I've given you the instructions, please follow the instructions I've given you. After 10 minutes, after you've set an online timer, and after 10 minutes, you get them to stop. And then you ask them the questions within your team for this particular exercise. Was there a leader? Did you write down the instructions for the first design, or did you use some other form of communication? So very rarely would students actually use a video to explain what they wanted in terms of a design. But that option is available to them. Any kind of form of communication was available to them, but most will actually use the second sheet of paper to write down their instructions. And then the other question that we want to ask is, did you prototype the design, or did you build a model of the design that you actually wrote down or that you will communicate? Again, very few actually think around prototyping the instructions that they have given. And the reason why we pause at this point and we get them to reflect on what they did is that we want them to think around the ways that they communicated with each other. First person syndrome is basically when we give them a task and we say, please do this, and the first person says, well, I think this, and the whole team follows behind them without actually giving others a voice within the design or the instruction. So I always talk about first person syndrome and how first person syndrome can actually it does shape the design, but it also shapes the level of innovation, because typically in a team there are various voices, and those various voices can actually create more novel design ideas. So I get them to pause and think around how, as a team, they communicated with one another, and if they use prototyping. Next, we also talk about which is the best plane, and that prompts, well, what metrics do we use to understand what is a best plane? And when we ask them, who did you actually design this for? Because inherently, what is very important about any design is actually understanding your customers or your users or your target market, is which we say in marketing, or the people that will actually have their problem solved or the opportunity for a particular market. Whenever we design, we need to make sure that we're designing with a particular person or group or problem for a particular group in mind. And ask them the questions, how would you share your ideas? Now, everything is a paper plane is a reflection point to think about what other activities where it's very important to understand our customers or our users or our market. And the answer is, there is so much that is shaped by the ways we communicate with each other, with our bosses, with our team members, and actually being intentional around the ways that we communicate can help build better designs, better relationships, and better communication. The next thing we do in this activity is say, get ready to prototype, and everyone's very excited because they've got their design instructions in front of them. But here we offer a twist. So what we say is, instead of you actually creating your own design, we're going to ask you to swap your design instructions with another team, and they will follow your instructions to a T. And what we find within this is that everyone, in my experience, groans, because then they realize that how clear they communicated in their instructions is going to shape the ways that the other team builds their design. And you'd be very explicit that they can only follow the instructions given on the sheet. And we give them 7 minutes to create this plane. Okay, sorry. You're doing a whole lot faster than I am. So, for the next steps, we let them actually work out the actual design of the plane, and we give them 7 minutes, and then they'll create something based on the instructions that they give in that they're following. But then what happens is we go, wait, there's been a change. I'm really sorry. Your target audience, they've just come back to me and given me much clearer instructions on what we're actually going to be doing. And what we're going to be doing now is it's now going to be a competition to see which plane will fly the furthest distance. Now, a lot of people, after designing another team's design, so after the 7 minutes, we actually ask them and we stop them and say, wait, oh, we've just realized something. We've got a clear instruction around this design of the airplane. This often happens in business where somebody will say, I need this task, and then they come back just as you're about to finish or when you just finished and say, oh no, we want something else. And so what we'll do is we set it up as a competition. We say, we've got clear instructions now. The instructions are, we want to build a plane that will fly the furthest distance, and now you've got your prototypes in front of us, so we're going to run a competition to see which design is going to fly the furthest distance. Again, you'll find students going, oh no, or some students will be like, yes, because I think there will be some that will be very happy with the design and go, I think ours is going to win. And then there's this element of fun and creativity. Sometimes I take them out of the classroom and we just go onto the grass and we all throw the plane, and then there's grumbles or opportunities about wind interference. If you can find an empty, larger lecture hall, that also works well, where you stand at the top and you actually throw it, and the students love this physical activity of being able to throw an airplane. We don't typically give them opportunities to throw paper at university. And then we come back and we ask them questions. how do you think the prototype you created will go? And we ask this before they actually throw the airplanes. And what would you change in the design, or would you change anything in the design? Why or why not? And that actually gets them to look at the prototype in a different way. So it's about looking at the prototype fit for the task and how the plane actually works for a particular task and how it may not work for other tasks. So some of the key takeaways I discuss with my students are these following elements. One is design should always have a really clear idea of the problem that you're trying to solve or the opportunity that you see. And you also have to have a really clear idea of who you're designing for. So that may be your user, your target customers, it may be a whole range of people. Two, sometimes within design, typically the first idea is not your best idea. And that often happens in teams where someone will stand up and say, this is what I think, and everyone goes, okay, we'll follow your idea. The first idea is typically not your best one, and making sure that everyone collaborates within the design. Get feedback from the team. Empathy, a deep understanding of your target market, and clear communication is critical. For prototyping, pay careful attention to the instructions and be prepared to change or pivot your idea. Seek further feedback to improve the design through a better understanding of your customers or your customers' needs, and be prepared to iterate. So once you build something, you'll actually figure out whether or not it's fit for task, and then you can actually change it and make it more appropriate for the task or for the users that you're trying to serve. And just as a review, what we did in this exercise was give them an exercise that engages with conditions of uncertainty and ambiguity. So thinking about the pivot around making them design somebody else's idea, and also then changing the task makes students often respond positively and negatively. But it's good for them to think around being flexible, especially with design and prototyping. Two, the importance of empathy and communication, both in the design but also in the prototyping exercise. And three, illustrate teamwork through working together in prototyping ideas. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you really enjoy actually engaging with this activity and you use it in class.